So guys, what if Naruto x Luna x Octavia x Harem movie? The offices of IMP were quiet except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. Sitting at the desk was the 18-year-old adopted daughter of the boss CEO of IMP and one of 3 girlfriends of the IMP's biggest benefactors. Luna sat at her desk doing some paperwork. It was mostly bills, budgeting for ammo, and looking over the client list. Setting days, research. Honestly, her desk job fucking sucked. It was worth it when she and Naruto were alone though. Luna blushed at the thought of her lover. Ever since Naruto and by extension Blitz and the others had come into her life, it had been one wild ride after another. She had fought with her family, gone on missions to the human world, and fought with demons that attacked her family. She loved every second of it. It was all thanks to Naruto and Blitz. She loved Blitz. Despite hellhounds being treated more like pets in hell than anything, Blitz didn't see her as such. He treated her as family. Gave her a roof over her head, food on the table, and not kibbles and bits either. It was real food. 3 squares a day and snacks when she wanted them. If anything, she was treated better than others of her kind ever were. Of course, her love for Blitz was one thing. He was the father that she never had or knew she needed. Just like Millie and Moxie were that of an aunt and uncle. An infuriating aunt and a fat ass of a condescending uncle, but family, nonetheless. She absolutely loved Stolas. He was a fun guy to talk to, and he had some bomb-ass liquor in his collection. Stella was a bit of a downer, but Octavia was a fucking boss. Octavia started out as something akin to a girlfriend before she gave Luna permission to date her and Naruto, and then she had a girlfriend and a boyfriend. Speaking of said boyfriend. Hell, she loved Naruto, and not just the fact that he was packing a bitch breaker in his pants either. He was a funny guy. Also, by hell's standards, he was a kind man. Even his policy of letting his enemies live was something she found oddly lovely about him. When they made love, and don't get it wrong, they fucked each other and had some brutal socks that would make masochists blush. He made her feel like the only hellhound in hell. She lifted her hand to her neck and fingered the new pendant on her choker. It was an obsidian circle with a silver crescent moon sticking out into it. Fingering the pendant brought her to recent events. Thanks to Naruto's new position and the activities that he was involved, oftentimes vanished for days on end, and when he was in town, he was dead time. So much so that the little time Naruto did spend with Luna was devoted to cuddling and sleeping. At the same time, Octavia was learning more and more of her responsibilities as the heiress cautionary to the Ars Gotia, meaning that she was gone even more than Naruto was. The only person she had seen on the regular was Abby, and they were more or fewer girl nights, but since Abby wasn't really sexually attracted to females, the only time she and Luna had sex was if Naruto was there. Luna didn't have a problem with this, since she wasn't really into threesome sex as much as Naruto or surprisingly Octavia was. This weekend none of her lovers would be out, and they planned to spend the entire weekend together just to hang out and do a couple of things. Perhaps that foursome that Octavia had been hinting at. Luna's phone pinged. She raised an eyebrow at this. Maybe it was from one of her online friends, considering she didn't have many real friends. Hell, outside of her pack family, yeah, family, not a pack. The only person she could call a friend was Ken, but since his promotion to payman's guard, he was almost always too busy to hang out. Luna stopped typing on the computer and picked up her phone and looked at the message she just got on Healbook. She looked at the message for a few seconds before her eyes widened. 2. Ah fuck? Asked Luna. Before she could respond, a portal opened up in the middle of the office, with her adopted father, Naruto's mother, and father coming out of the other side. All 3 were covered in blood, and Blitz's gun was smoking. "Loony Daddy's home," yelled Blitz. "What took you guys so long?" asked Luna as she grabbed her company hellphone and opened up the client list before finding said client and texting them that the job was done. 3. "We would have been finished an hour ago, but someone was acting like a little bitch about killing an entire family," growled the boss. Luna smacked her forehead. "We've been over this, Fatis. We are paid to kill targets. Their background is not our business," said Luna. The group soon descended into their after-action argument. All the while the message that Luna reviewed was in the back of her mind on her personal hellphone. "Come to the Mangled Maw tomorrow at 6 a.m. Don't tell that overlord boyfriend of yours. This is hellhound business. Come alone. Don't worry, it's not a trap or anything. I want to speak about your heritage." Attached to the bottom of the text was a picture of a Hellenid woman who looked like Luna, but with black hair and a stomach that was set to burst at any moment, with a male hellhound with white hair behind her. Dated 2 months before her birthday. She would go and figure this mess out later. She wouldn't allow this to interfere with her pack. Location: IMP City, the second circle of Pride Ring. Place: IMP City, City Hall, Council Chambers. Time: same as above. Naruto groaned in annoyance as he, Charlie and Octavia looked over the finances with the members' new IMP City Council, Police Force Commissioner, and the Mayor of the city. Ars Gotia Demon Hoster. A white dove type wearing a grey suit. Over the last year the Overlord had expressed an interest in turning IMP City into a safe haven for sinner demons who had managed to be sent to hell unfairly. Many people who came to hell often had sins or problems that were not their own. For instance, sinners who died to crimes of passion or suicide were pretty unfair in Naruto's option. Naruto worked closely with Stolas, took millions of dollars from Valentino, cherry-keeping rival overlords in check, and managed to speak to several Ars Gotia demons into backing this idea and project with a favor or two, a rival killed here or there. The road to hell was paved with good intentions after all. It also helped that Charlie had moved her main Happy Hotel to Imp City for protection, while Alistair, who Naruto had still yet to meet, ran the Pentagram City branch. "Let's get this meeting over with, Overlord Naruto. I have more important things to do," said Hoster, filing his fingers. Naruto narrowed his eyes. "Don't test me, Hoster," said Naruto. Hoster looked at Naruto and leaned forward. "It's you whom shouldn't test me. I'm here as a favor to my dear friend and future lover Stella. Why was it not for Stolas I would be your daddy, dear Octavia? After all, she needs more than an imp-loving fool by her side." Octavia rubbed her temple. "I really don't care to hear about my parents' love lives, and don't call me dear. I still remember your creepy ass making a pass at me when I was 12. Keep this professional or else my boyfriend here might take acceptance of what you tried to do," said Octavia. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the chicken, who was looking more and more like dinner as the seconds passed. Naruto could agree with that. Stolas and Blitz's relationship had transitioned recently from a simple business arrangement to Blitz being called Stola's consort. Even Stella had gotten in on the action. The only reason that Naruto and Octavia knew this was because they walked in on the threesome in the middle of the parlor. Hoster smiled at Octavia in a way that said, "Creeper. My dear Octavia, you take so much after your father, but in your mother's beautiful way," said Hoster. Everyone in the room felt Naruto's aura flare. "I'm going to ignore that comment for now but make another pass at my Starfire and I'll be picking my teeth with your bones drumstick," growled Naruto, showing off his massive and very sharp teeth. Hoster sweated, but he nodded to Naruto. Despite his demeanor and status as a sinner demon, Naruto was someone to be feared as well as respected. A few demons had tried to make a pass at the power base that Naruto controlled. It was easier said than done. But the 3Vs as a subservient organization, the Princess of Hell herself as a personal friend, and his own warlord turned overlord and her 3 warlord enforcers, it was difficult to take a creek at him. He had personally seen to the deaths of 15 upstart warlords who had attacked his power base, and that was just this month. Octavia reached over and put a hand on Naruto's shoulder to calm her lover down. Many in the Ars Gotia and Sinner Demon circles believed that Octavia had some type of mind control over Naruto and believed that her touch alone forced him to submit to her. That wasn't the case. Luna held the same power over Naruto and to a lesser extent so did Abby after a year, but it was love. The concept that natural-born demons had a problem understanding. It wasn't a foreign concept by any means, just hard to understand. "Hiding isn't the way, Naruto," said Charlie in her full business suit, not her favorite clothes, but this meeting was important. "Maelstrom please," pleaded Octavia. Naruto looked at Octavia. Showing such affection was a good way to have a target painted on one's back in hell, but most demons knew better than to go after Naruto's loved ones. "Let us get this meeting over with. I have 5 divisions that are still training, and I need to oversee them to ensure that I can weed out the bad apples," said the chief of police. The former military policeman, staff sergeant and later detective in the MCPD, he was in hell because he was involved with a shootout with teenagers who didn't intend to give up the fight. The ensuing gunfight resulted in the death of 6 teenagers aged 14 to 19. Chief had been struck during the fight and died days later. He was one of the good ones that Heaven's system fucked over. He was also a resident of the IMP City Happy Hotel branch. He had made peace with the fact that he was going to end up in hell a long time ago. No, he just wanted to see his mother one last time before he would finish his punishment in hell out. "I'll all for it, Chief, but this meeting is important," said Charlie with a smile. "What could be so important that the child of Stolas had to call it personally?" asked Hoster, looking at his nails. "I'm calling this meeting on behalf of my father. He is currently in a meeting in Wrath alongside Mother and they want to make sure that their interests and investments are not going to waste down there. Not to mention grandfather is keeping a lot of the Ars Gotia off our backs. We have several events coming up. Including a city inspection from Lucifer himself," said Octavia. That statement got everyone's attention. Lucifer didn't just make random appearances. If Lucifer was inspecting the city, then it had to be important. "Why was this not told to us before?" asked a random member of the council, slamming his massive hand on the table. "It was news to my father as well," said Octavia. "Our father wants to see the system at play for himself," said Charlie, leaning forward. Charlie was technique Lucifer's liaison on this project. Just as he had given her funding for her Happy Hotel, he also wanted to keep a close eye on his investments here. The laws and rules of hell were numerous. Well, it may not have seemed like it, part of the reason for the various rules was because there were just too many subclasses of demons in hell. Sinners, native-born, fallen angels, and so on. This was where Naruto's idea for a more centralized government came from. Of course, creating a system from scratch, especially when everyone already enjoyed the current chaotic status quo, was easier said than done. Of course, an overlord with less than a year of power wasn't going to convince people, but Stoll has managed to help Naruto in that endeavor. Now's not the time to panic. Father won't visit for another few months. We have time to get things in order, said Charlie. With that, everyone in the meeting got onto the things that needed to be done to have the system fully operational for Lucifer's visit. Location: IMP City, second circle of the Pride Ring. Place: Mangled Maw. Time: 0540. Luna walked into the cafe where the message said to meet her at. She felt guilty for lying to her family, especially Blitz and Naruto, but she needed to be here. She needed to know about the past she never knew. Walking to a booth, she took a seat and waited. The Mangled Maw was a popular spot for hellhounds to congregate. It was a combination bar diner that served some great food and played even better music. Considering plenty of hellhounds were into softcore rock and light metal. Luna herself didn't have a preference, it hurt her ears too much to really enjoy it. There were several hellhounds here already, but none were the hellhound she was looking for. Luna reached into her pocket and pulled out a cigarette and lit it before taking a puff. The imp waitress came over and took Luna's order of iced tea and a medium rare burger. After 15 minutes and 2 cigarettes, the door opened and 2 hellhounds entered the restaurant. Both of them were wolf-type silver-gray wolf types like herself. The smaller of the duo was a female like herself. She looked just like Luna with black fur and silver-white hair, but her eyes were blue. She wore black leather pants, no shirt, and a vest that covered her breasts. On the left side of the vest, the symbol has 3 angular lines in a somewhat triangular shape, with 3 bars jutting out at different angles. Looking closer, Luna could see a silver howling wolf in the middle of the triangle. On the bottom bar was the word, Omega. On her hip was a dagger. The male hellhound was tall. Taller than his female counterpart with white fur, and the hair on his head was silver as well, with sweeping back and to the middle of his back in a ponytail, a small goatee, and yellow eyes. He wore similar clothes to his female counterpart. His symbol had the same black symbol, but on the very top bar it read Alpha. The female hellhound looked around the diner before spotting Luna. She grabbed the male's arm and gave a sharp pull. The male looked at her for a second before she pointed at Luna. Luna shucked in a breath as the male looked at her. His yellow eyes pierced into her soul. Every instant was telling her that she needed to submit to this male, this alpha. This, however, was quickly overridden as the knowledge that she already had an alpha in the form of Naruto. Taking a breath, she met his gaze in a stare down of what seemed to be dominance. The dominance that she lost after a minute of trying to keep up the tough girl act. She didn't understand. She had met plenty of other hellhounds, and none had ever made her want to run away with just a glance. This was different. After a minute or so, he smirked before he walked over with the female behind him. He took a seat in the booth without Luna even inviting him to sit down. Old as brass, thought Luna. The girl quickly joined them as the male wrapped an arm around her. A show of dominance and submission. Luna couldn't tell. Outside of gluttony, hellhound packs were rare. "Who are you and why did you call me here?" asked Luna as she lit a new cigarette. "Forgive us for the secrecy, but we needed to make sure that overlord boyfriend of yours didn't catch wind of this. This is a sensitive matter," said the male. Luna stabbed out her cigarette. "The only reason I didn't tell Ruto about this was that you said that you had information on my birth parents. Otherwise, this place would be swarming with his people," said Luna. What Luna was neglecting to mention was that Naruto didn't have people outside of his circle. Everyone who worked in his organization was part of gangs and subgroups, hoping to gain an overlord's favor. "Luna, my name is Fenris Silverblood, beta of the Silverblood Hellhound Pack," said Fenris. "And I'm Dusk Silverblood," said the female hellhound with an oddly British accent. She looked away shyly. "I'm your little sister." Luna's eyes widened. The offices of IMP were quiet except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. Sitting at the desk was the 18-year-old adopted daughter of the boss CEO of IMP and one of 3 girlfriends of the IMP's biggest benefactors. Luna sat at her desk doing some paperwork. It was mostly bills, budgeting for ammo, and looking over the client list. Setting days, research. Honestly, her desk job fucking sucked. It was worth it when she and Naruto were alone though. Luna blushed at the thought of her lover. Ever since Naruto and by extension Blitz and the others had come into her life, it had been one wild ride after another. She had fought with her family, gone on missions to the human world, and fought with demons that attacked her family. She loved every second of it. It was all thanks to Naruto and Blitz. She loved Blitz. Despite hellhounds being treated more like pets in hell than anything, Blitz didn't see her as such. He treated her as family. Gave her a roof over her head, food on the table, and not kibbles and bits either. It was real food. 3 squares a day and snacks when she wanted them. If anything, she was treated better than others of her kind ever were. Of course, her love for Blitz was one thing. He was the father that she never had or knew she needed. Just like Millie and Moxie were that of an aunt and uncle. An infuriating aunt and a fat ass of a condescending uncle, but family, nonetheless. She absolutely loved Stolas. He was a fun guy to talk to, and he had some bomb-ass liquor in his collection. Stella was a bit of a downer, but Octavia was a fucking boss. Octavia started out as something akin to a girlfriend before she gave Luna permission to date her and Naruto, and then she had a girlfriend and a boyfriend. Speaking of said boyfriend. Hell, she loved Naruto, and not just the fact that he was packing a bitch breaker in his pants either. He was a funny guy. Also, by hell's standards, he was a kind man. Even his policy of letting his enemies live was something she found oddly lovely about him. When they made love, and don't get it wrong, they fucked each other and had some brutal socks that would make masochists blush, he made her feel like the only hellhound in hell. She lifted her hand to her neck and fingered the new pendant on her choker. It was an obsidian circle with a silver crescent moon sticking out into it. Fingering the pendant brought her to recent events. Thanks to Naruto's new position and the activities that he was involved, oftentimes vanished for days on end, and when he was in town, he was dead time. So much so that the little time Naruto did spend with Luna was devoted to cuddling and sleeping. At the same time, Octavia was learning more and more of her responsibilities as the heiress cautionary to the Ars Gotia, meaning that she was gone even more than Naruto was. The only person she had seen on the regular was Abby, and they were more or fewer girl nights, but since Abby wasn't really sexually attracted to females, the only time she and Luna had sex was if Naruto was there. Luna didn't have a problem with this, since she wasn't really into threesome sex as much as Naruto or surprisingly Octavia was. This weekend none of her lovers would be out, and they planned to spend the entire weekend together just to hang out and do a couple of things. Perhaps that foursome that Octavia had been hinting at. Luna's phone pinged. She raised an eyebrow at this. Maybe it was from one of her online friends, considering she didn't have many real friends. Hell, outside of her pack family, yeah, family, not a pack. The only person she could call a friend was Ken, but since his promotion to payman's guard, he was almost always too busy to hang out. Luna stopped typing on the computer and picked up her phone and looked at the message she just got on Healbook. She looked at the message for a few seconds before her eyes widened. 2. Ah fuck? Asked Luna. Before she could respond, a portal opened up in the middle of the office, with her adopted father, Naruto's mother, and father coming out of the other side. All three were covered in blood, and Blitz's gun was smoking. "Loony Daddy's home," yelled Blitz. "What took you guys so long?" asked Luna as she grabbed her company hellphone and opened up the client list, before finding said client and texting them that the job was done. 3. "We would have been finished an hour ago, but someone was acting like a little bitch about killing an entire family," growled the boss. Luna smacked her forehead. "We've been over this, fatus. We are paid to kill targets. Their background is not our business," said Luna. The group soon descended into their after-action argument. All the while the message that Luna reviewed was in the back of her mind on her personal hellphone. "Come to the Mangled Maw tomorrow at 6 a.m. Don't tell that overlord boyfriend of yours. This is hellhound business. Come alone. Don't worry, it's not a trap or anything. I want to speak about your heritage." Attached to the bottom of the text was a picture of a Hellenid woman who looked like Luna, but with black hair and a stomach that was set to burst at any moment, with a male hellhound with white hair behind her. Dated 2 months before her birthday. She would go and figure this mess out later. She wouldn't allow this to interfere with her pack. Location: Imp City, the second circle of Pride Ring. Place: Imp City, City Hall, Council Chambers. Time: same as above. Naruto groaned in annoyance as he, Charlie and Octavia looked over the finances with the members' new Imp City Council, Police Force Commissioner, and the Mayor of the city. Ars Gotia Demon Hoster. A white dove type wearing a grey suit. Over the last year the Overlord had expressed an interest in turning Imp City into a safe haven for sinner demons who had managed to be sent to hell unfairly. Many people who came to hell often had sins or problems that were not their own. For instance, sinners who died to crimes of passion or suicide were pretty unfair in Naruto's option. Naruto worked closely with Stolas, took millions of dollars from Valentino, cherry-keeping rival overlords in check, and managed to speak to several Ars Gotia demons into backing this idea and project with a favor or two, a rival killed here or there. The road to hell was paved with good intentions after all. It also helped that Charlie had moved her main Happy Hotel to Imp City for protection, while Alistair, who Naruto had still yet to meet, ran the Pentagram City branch. "Let's get this meeting over with, Overlord Naruto. I have more important things to do," said Hoster, filing his fingers. Naruto narrowed his eyes. "Don't test me, Hoster," said Naruto. Hoster looked at Naruto and leaned forward. It's you whom shouldn't test me. I'm here as a favor to my dear friend and future lover Stella. Why was it not for Stola's I would be your daddy dear Octavia. After all, she needs more than an imp-loving fool by her side. Octavia rubbed her temple. I really don't care to hear about my parents' love lives and don't call me dear. I still remember your creepy ass making a pass at me when I was 12. Keep this professional or else my boyfriend here might take acceptance of what you tried to do, said Octavia. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the chicken who was looking more and more like dinner as the seconds passed. Naruto could agree with that. Stola's and Blitz's relationship had transitioned recently from a simple business arrangement to Blitz being called Stola's consort. Even Stella had gotten in on the action. The only reason that Naruto and Octavia knew this was because they walked in on the threesome in the middle of the parlor. Hoster smiled at Octavia in a way that said creeper. My dear Octavia, you take so much after your father, but in your mother's beautiful way, said Hoster. Everyone in the room felt Naruto's aura flare. I'm going to ignore that comment for now but make another pass at my Starfire and I'll be picking my teeth with your bones drumstick, growled Naruto showing off his massive and very sharp teeth. Hoster sweated, but he nodded to Naruto. Despite his demeanor and status as a sinner demon, Naruto was someone to be feared as well as respected. A few demons had tried to make a pass at the power base that Naruto controlled. It was easier said than done. But the 3Vs as a subservient organization, the Princess of Hell herself as a personal friend, and his own warlord turned overlord and her 3 warlord enforcers, it was difficult to take a creek at him. He had personally seen to the deaths of 15 upstart warlords who had attacked his power base, and that was just this month. Octavia reached over and put a hand on Naruto's shoulder to calm her lover down. Many in the Ars Gotia and Sinner Demon circles believed that Octavia had some type of mind control over Naruto and believed that her touch alone forced him to submit to her. That wasn't the case. Loona held the same power over Naruto and to a lesser extent so did Abby after a year, but it was love. The concept that natural-born demons had a problem understanding. It wasn't a foreign concept by any means, just hard to understand. Hiding isn't the way Naruto, said Charlie in her full business suit, not her favorite clothes, but this meeting was important. Maelstrom please, pleaded Octavia. Naruto looked at Octavia. Showing such affection was a good way to have a target painted on one's back in hell, but most demons knew better than to go after Naruto's loved ones. Let us get this meeting over with. I have 5 divisions that are still training, and I need to oversee them to ensure that I can weed out the bad apples, said the chief of police. The former military policeman staff sergeant and later detective in the MCPD, he was in hell because he was involved with a shootout with teenagers who didn't intend to give up the fight. The ensuing gunfight resulted in the death of 6 teenagers aged 14 to 19. Chief had been struck during the fight and died days later. He was one of the good ones that Heaven's system fucked over. He was also a resident of the IMP City Happy Hotel branch. He had made peace with the fact that he was going to end up in hell a long time ago. No, he just wanted to see his mother one last time before he would finish his punishment in hell out. I'll all for it chief, but this meeting is important, said Charlie with a smile. What could be so important that the child of Stola's had to call it personally? Asked Hoster looking at his nails. I'm calling this meeting on behalf of my father. He is currently in a meeting in Wrath alongside Mother and they want to make sure that their interests and investments are not going to waste down there. Not to mention grandfather is keeping a lot of the Ars Gotia off our backs. We have several events coming up. Including a city inspection from Lucifer himself, said Octavia. That statement got everyone's attention. Lucifer didn't just make random appearances. If Lucifer was inspecting the city, then it had to be important. Why was this not told to us before? Asked a random member of the council slamming his massive hand on the table. It was news to my father as well, said Octavia. Our father wants to see the system at play for himself, said Charlie leaning forward. Charlie was technique Lucifer's liaison on this project. Just as he had given her funding for her happy hotel, he also wanted to keep a close eye on his investments here. The laws and rules of hell were numerous. While it may not have seemed like it, part of the reason for the various rules was because there were just too many subclasses of demons in hell. Sinners, native-born, fallen angels, and so on. This was where Naruto's idea for a more centralized government came from. Of course, creating a system from scratch especially when everyone already enjoyed the current chaotic status quo was easier said than done. Of course, an overlord with less than a year of power wasn't going to convince people, but Stola's managed to help Naruto in that endeavor. Now's not the time to panic. Father won't visit for another few months. We have time to get things in order, said Charlie. But that everyone in the meeting got onto the things that needed to be done to have the system fully operational for Lucifer's visit. Location: IMP City, second circle of the Pride Ring. Place: Mangled Maw. Time: 0540. Loona walked into the cafe where the message said to meet her at. She felt guilty for lying to her family, especially Blitz and Naruto, but she needed to be here. She needed to know about the past she never knew. Walking to a booth, she took a seat and waited. The Mangled Maw was a popular spot for hellhounds to congregate. It was a combination bar diner that served some great food and played even better music. Considering plenty of hellhounds were into softcore rock and light metal. Loona herself didn't have a preference, it hurt her ears too much to really enjoy it. There were several hellhounds here already, but none were the hellhound she was looking for. Loona reached into her pocket and pulled out a cigarette and lit it before taking a puff. The imp waitress came over and took Loona's order of iced tea and a medium rare burger. After 15 minutes and 2 cigarettes, the door opened and 2 hellhounds entered the restaurant. Both of them were wolf-type silver-gray wolf types like herself. The smaller of the duo was a female like herself. She looked just like Loona with black fur and silver-white hair, but her eyes were blue. She wore black leather pants, no shirt, and a vest that covered her breasts. On the left side of the vest, the symbol has 3 angular lines in a somewhat triangular shape, with 3 bars jutting out at different angles. Looking closer, Loona could see a silver howling wolf in the middle of the triangle. On the bottom bar was the word, Omega. On her hip was a dagger. The male hellhound was tall. Taller than his female counterpart with white fur, and the hair on his head was silver as well, with sweeping back and to the middle of his back in a ponytail, a small goatee, and yellow eyes. He wore similar clothes to his female counterpart. His symbol had the same black symbol, but on the very top bar it read Alpha. The female hellhound looked around the diner before spotting Loona. She grabbed the male's arm and gave a sharp pull. The male looked at her for a second before she pointed at Loona. Loona shucked in a breath as the male looked at her. His yellow eyes pierced into her soul. Every instant was telling her that she needed to submit to this male, this alpha. This, however, was quickly overridden as the knowledge that she already had an alpha in the form of Naruto. Taking a breath, she met his gaze in a stare down of what seemed to be dominance. The dominance that she lost after a minute of trying to keep up the tough girl act. She didn't understand. She had met plenty of other hellhounds, and none had ever made her want to run away with just a glance. This was different. After a minute or so, he smirked before he walked over with the female behind him. He took a seat in the booth without Loona even inviting him to sit down. Bold as brass, thought Loona. The girl quickly joined them as the male wrapped an arm around her. A show of dominance and submission. Loona couldn't tell. Outside of gluttony, hellhound packs were rare. "Who are you and why did you call me here?" asked Loona as she lit a new cigarette. "Forgive us for the secrecy, but we needed to make sure that overlord boyfriend of yours didn't catch wind of this. This is a sensitive matter," said the male. Loona stabbed out her cigarette. "The only reason I didn't tell Ruto about this was that you said that you had information on my birth parents. Otherwise, this place would be swarming with his people," said Loona. What Loona was neglecting to mention was that Naruto didn't have people outside of his circle. Everyone who worked in his organization was part of gangs and subgroups, hoping to gain an overlord's favor. "Loona, my name is Fenris Silverblood, beta of the Silverblood Hellhound Pack," said Fenris. "And I'm Dusk Silverblood," said the female hellhound with an oddly British accent. She looked away shyly. "I'm your little sister." Loona's eyes widened. "Sister? Sister? 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 Sister?" The word kept repeating itself over and over in the silver-haired female hellhound's head. She had a sister. A fucking sister. "I have a sister?" asked Loona, looking at Dusk. "2 sisters and 4 brothers. All members of the Silverblood," said Dusk. "So my name is Loona Silverblood?" asked Loona, liking the ring it had to it. Fenris shook his head. "Not that simple, runt. You have to earn the Silverblood name. That's not easy to do. Many who wish to be Silverblood have died trying to complete the tasks required to be Silverblood. And you have a long way to go before you can be Silverblood." Loona tried to stop herself from growling at Fenris. What right did he have to tell her that she wasn't worthy of her birth name? Taking a deep breath, she released it and looked Fenris in his eyes. The eyes that were making something deep inside of her body screamed to submit to this alpha male before her. Submit to him. He's a powerful alpha. He will give you strong pups. Yelled a part of her that she didn't realize existed. "I have someone. I have Naruto." Another part yelled back. "But he's not your mate. He's merely a passing fling. This is an alpha worthy of you. Submit like the bitch you are." Loona pushed both of those parts away. She needed to focus, and hearing her instincts warring with her heart wasn't helping at the moment. "Then what was the point of contacting me?" asked Loona. "Father wanted you found," said Dusk. "Father?" asked Loona. "The current true alpha of the Silverbloods and member of the Silver Pack Alliance. Warren Silverblood," said Fenris, closing his eyes. "What is that?" asked Loona. Dusk shook her head. "Sorry, Loona, but we can't tell you anymore. You're an untested. And no rank in the eyes of the Silverblood. I would tell you more, but I just earned my own Omega rank not even a year ago. That's the only reason I was allowed to come here, said Dusk as stood up. Fenris stood as well, before he took out a card and placed it on the desk. We've said enough as it is and our time is limited. Call us if you want to talk further. We'll give you a time and place, said Fenris. Wait, said Luna stopping Fenris. You introduced yourself as a beta, but your cut says alpha. What's that about? Fenris looked at the badge on his cut before chuckling. It's a habit I developed from my time as a beta, even though I was a respected individual in our pack. Our pack has over 100 blooded members at the moment. I'm the lowest ranked alpha in the pack. There are 10 betas all looking to jump at the chance to take my title of alpha and prove themselves above me. My position can be contested at any moment, so I still refer to myself as a beta when I'm in the presence of those I trust or don't feel are a threat to me. Like Dusk here, said Fenris putting his arm around Dusk. Luna narrowed her eyes. Which one am I? Asked Luna. Fenris smirked. You tell me, no blood. But those words Fenris and Dusk left Luna to her own devices. Luna sat for a while before taking out some cash and slamming it on the table. She had to get to work. Location. Second circle, IMP City Pride Ring. Place. IMP offices. Time. 11:20. The young sinner demon sighed as he knocked on the door of the office that he had heard about. The office of IMP demons could get the revenge that he never could in life. Despite how tall he was, the man was only 16 years old. He hadn't been tall in life, in fact, he had been short, barely 5'4" at the time of his death, his ears twitched this way, and his blue fur had several black stripes on it. And instead of the usual red and yellow hell eyes, his eyes were turquoise. He knocked on the door and waited for someone to answer, but instead of someone politely answering the door, a small red imp female flew through the door and smashed against the wall outside. She shook her head before getting up, gritting her teeth and jumping back into the room. Peeking his head into the room, the young man saw that the red imp female was fighting with a taller hellhound female. The smaller female was definitely more agile, but the taller female was way more powerful. Sitting on a couch were 3 males. 2 imps, and he had to guess a sinner like himself, only he was more like a fox. Excuse me," said the young man. The fox turned to him and beckoned him over. The young man walked into the room and managed to duck as the large hellhound and thrown into the wall via Hurricane Rana. The young man made it to the couch as the 2 females resumed their fight. And kid, and have a seat," said the taller male imp. What is going on?" asked the kid. "Oh, my mom said my girlfriend's cooking wasn't enough to satisfy me, despite the fact that Luna and I have similar taste in food, so she was pissed and they ended up fighting," said the fox. "Shouldn't we stop them?" asked the young man. The fox, the taller imp, and the shorter imp all busted out laughing. That's the funniest shit I've ever heard. You never get between 2 bitches when they have a score to settle. And as much as I love my loony mama didn't raise a fool. Anyway, the name is Blitz and the O is silent. I'm the CEO and lead assassin of Immediate Murder Professionals. Who you need, dead sport?" asked Blitz. The boy rubbed his head. "My name is Michael Keel and I need you to kill my sister," said the now named Michael. The 2 females stopped fighting and looked at the kid. "Well, you must really hate your sister if you want her dead," said the hellhound female. Michael shook his head. "Quite the opposite. I love my sister, but she has issues. Issues that have made her a very dangerous individual." "Why don't you start your tale from the beginning, young man," said Moxie. And so he told them his tale. Michael and his older sister Susanna or Sue were children of anti-vaxxer religious nuts. Every word that came out of their pastor's mouth was glorified gold. They grew up in quite an affluent family in the business world, but when Sue turned 11, she developed a brain tumor. They caught it early enough to save her life, but not early enough to stop irreparable damage. To say the least, it messed Sue up big time. Because their parents were always so busy and their older siblings were living their own lives, only Michael was around Sue to help her, comfort her, and take care of her. In the later stages, Michael even told her that he would never leave her and always be there for her. That was where things began to take a turn for the worst. Sue took his words at face value and became obsessed with Michael. To the point that she would rage at their maid if she dared try to serve her father any food. Their parents were not overly concerned, but felt that Sue's behavior needed to be corrected, and when she was 14, she was sent away for a year to a boarding school. St. Charlie's Institute for Wayward Girls. Every week Michael would send a letter to Sue, telling her how things were. He would get his own letter from her once a month, due to how strict the staff at St. Charlie's were. A year to the day she returned, and for a while, she seemed to be okay. If only that was the case. For a little over a month, they lived in harmony. Family dinners, reintroduction to the neighborhood, and the like. Barely a month after returning, she took a knife and went through the house, killing everyone except Michael. Once she was done with the rest of the family, she kicked open the door to Michael's room and had her way with him. Once she was finished and licked his tears and told him that she was all he would ever need in life. emptying out as much cash from the bank accounts as possible. Before they went on the run, Sue managed to get them new identities and get them out of the city. What followed was 5 years of rape, physiological torture, and pain on a level that most people could never fathom in their entire existence. She allowed him a cell phone that was only directed to her phone. No internet, no social media access. Nothing but her. One day when Sue was exhausted from their coupling, Michael gathered the courage to leave the house that they had rented. Unfortunately, he barely got 5 minutes away before Sue came sprinting down the street after him. Mitchell pulled out a knife and held it out in front of him, making her stop. All Sue did was smile at him. "You won't kill me, Mikey. I'm your favorite big sister," said Sue as she advanced to the point where the knife was touching her chest, biting into her right breast and drawing blood. Instead of pushing the blade forward, he ripped the knife away, leaving a deep cut before he turned the knife on himself and drove it into his jugular and ripped it across his neck. The last thing he saw before he felt the icy embrace of death was his sister's horrified face. When he next awoke, he was in Pentagram City. "And that's my story," said Michael, taking a sip of water from his cup. Michael looked over to the group that he was about to hire, only to find the hellhound female and the tall imp sleeping, the smaller of the two imps playing cards, and finally, the fox man looking at his cell phone. Wait, it was a hell of phone. Damn terminology. Michael growled at this and slammed his hand into the desk. "Are you assholes even listening to me?" yelled Michael. Everyone jumped up from what they were doing and looked at the man. "Dude, your story was long as fuck," yelled Naruto, putting his phone away. "Hell, the chapter is already half over at this point." "Babe, no breaking the fourth wall," said Luna. "Alright, before you two get on some Clarissa explains it all bullshit, let's find out why this guy who was getting free pussy from his sister has such an issue," said Blitz. 1, 2. "That's fucking gross. First off, she raped me, and second, she was my sister," said Mitchell. "Historically speaking, incest was perfectly acceptable in many parts of the human world," said Moxie. "Not in America, we don't," said Mitchell, crossing his arms. Luna slapped her forehead. "A more Karen answer if I ever heard one. Are you going to take my case or not?" asked Mitchell, growling at the group. "Shot me the details. I'll look them over. We need 30% upfront for operations costs," said Luna as she gave him the company hellphone number and email. Mitchell grumbled but did as told. "Great," said Blitz. "We'll call you when the job is done." Mitchell grumbled before he left. Once he left, the others turned to each other. "Alright, you all know the deal. Luna, Naruto, get to researching this crazy bitch. Millie, Moxie, get the weapons together. Since we're going after a crazy bitch serial killer, then we need to be careful. Anything ranged is probably going to be our friend this time around," said Blitz. "And what are you going to do?" asked Luna as she booted up the laptop and began as Naruto took the desktop. "I'm going to go and see my sister," said Blitz, walking out of the door. This made everyone stop and look at each other. If it was one thing Blitz rarely did, it was speak about family. They had all seen the pictures that Blitz hung all over his office of him and Barbie wire, as well as the tall woman who they had never seen in person. For all of the stuff they knew about Blitz, they didn't know anything about the man. Location: third circle of the Pride Ring. Place: Second Chance Rehab. Time: 1200. Blitz tapped his foot as he sat in the lobby of the rehab center. Like most of hell, it looked like crap, smelled like crap, and had problems that made Earth rehab centers look tame by comparison. Barbie wasn't in rehab for crap like coke, weed, pills or any shit like that. They may have been hard drugs on Earth, but in hell that shit was like candy. Back when they had become a traveling duo act in Pride before he became a clown at Lululand and well before his bodyguard assassin days. In the beginning, they were a pretty good act, but before long their agents started pushing Barbie as the star. It had nothing to do with the fact that they were banging, and he was even pimping her out behind Blitz's back. It was near the end of their contract that Blitz learned this. He barged into their manager's office to find Barbie injecting euphoria into her arm. Euphoria was basically liquid divinity mixed with just enough demonic grown herbs to disrupt the fatality of it if taken in small enough doses. It was one of the few abyss market drugs that the princes made truly illegal in hell, but it was hard to track down the source of the drugs. The details didn't matter in the end. Their manager was dead, Barbie had gotten addicted to euphoria, and she absolutely hated Blitz for ruining her chance to be a big-time star. It was one of the reasons that he no longer associated himself to the name Blitzo, but it wasn't the straw that broke that horse's back. No, that would come later on. "Mr. Blitzo, if you would please follow me. Miss Wire is in the day room," called a succubus nurse, smiling at him with her charm in full-blown effect. Considering that Blitz had dated a succubus princess, it didn't do shit for him. Not even popping a boner. Ignoring the way she called his name, Blitz got and followed her. It didn't take long to get to the day room. As they walked over to Barbie, Blitz felt his heart swell in joy and shrink in pain. To him, Barbie was the third most beautiful woman in hell, right behind his Luna and their mother. Barbie is a slim red imp with large curled horns, red eyes with yellow sclera, sharp teeth, and black claw-like fingers. Blitz noticed that she had grown out a long mane of black hair similar to their mother's. Something Blitz knew she hated with a passion. Across her skin are white stripes, some forming crosses on her forearms as well as her forehead. She wears a wide and dark red, short striped dress with black knee-high boots. Blitz walked over to the table where Barbie was sitting. "Hey sis," said Blitz. The woman smiled. "Hey, Blitzo. How have you been?" asked Barbie in an almost childlike way, a long-term side effect of euphoria. Blitzo choked up and tried not to allow his tears out. "Good Barb, you look well," said Blitz, fighting back tears. He knew that she was currently doped up. She was always doped up when he visited. Euphoria didn't leave one's mind intact. He would come here once a month to talk to her, see if he could get any semblance of his little sister back. Blitz would spend the next few hours just enjoying his sister's company. Maybe he would talk to Charlie about enrolling his sister in her hotel. Location: IMP City, second circle of the Pride Ring. Place: Naruto's apartment building, Naruto's penthouse. Time: 2200. Luna brushed her hair as she looked in the mirror. Behind her, Naruto and Abby lay in the bed cuddling. Normally Luna and Octavia would already be with him. However, Octavia was still out. She set her brush down and went to bed. She cuddled up along Naruto's other side and smiled at her lover. He was strong, handsome, and quite gentle when he wanted to be. "I hope you two had a good day," said Abby. "It was alright. Luna and Mom got into a fight," said Naruto. "Oh, did you win?" asked Abby. "Call it a draw. We had a client come in today. Personally, I'd like to have my cunt pounded to heaven, but we have a job to do in the morning. We're going after a psycho bitch who turned her brother into a sock slave," said Luna. "Wow, that is messed up. I hope you can find vengeance for that poor boy," said Abby. Naruto nodded. He had his own mixed emotions about this considering his past, but with him still having death amnesia, it was probably a good possibility that he would never get those memories back. So far he had punished two of the people responsible for his past in the form of Yuhi Kurenai and Nono. Speaking of Kurenai, apparently his mother and Kurama loved fucking her, but because of Kurenai's punishment, she had more than a year of lust built up in her body. The Overlord was sure that if he let loose on her punishment, then her brain would fry from pleasure overload. Naruto shook his head. "Night ladies," said Naruto before he kissed both Luna and Abby before they snuggled together. Luna took in the scents of the room, Abby's rich honey scent, the lavender that Naruto seemed to prefer, and the smell of salt and broth that Naruto seemed to admit at all times. She was drifting off to sleep, warm and loved. But, the things that Fenris said to her lingering in the back of her minds. "But he's no alpha like Fenris is," came her inner pack. Luna called from the deepest parts of her mind. Luna's eyes snapped open, and she was greeted by a sight that would shake her to her core. It was her. Dressed similarly to her sister. Only her badge didn't have any markings. Untested. "You again. Go back to the deep end. Naruto is the perfect mate." Desire, Luna growled. "IP," Luna laughed. "You can fight all you want, but the truth is you never really belonged anywhere. Blitzo only took you in as a pet, Millie and Moxie see you as worthless. Hell, even that new bitch Abby has more sway in those bullshit tits than you do. Octavia is just like her mother. She won't ever see you as anything more than a toy. And Naruto. He's strong, but he'll kick you to the curb sooner or later. Don't talk about my family, don't talk about my dad. Don't talk about Aunt Mox or Aunt Millie. Don't talk about Abby, don't talk about Moonlight, and don't talk about Naruto," yelled Desire Luna, her eyes turning red as she took a swipe at IP Luna. IP Luna jumped backwards and laughed. "Stuck a nerve, did I? That's fine. I'll back off for now, but know this, the closer you get to the Silverblood, the stronger I'll be for. Soon I'll be the real Luna and you'll be nothing but a distant memory." Luna's eyes snapped open as she sat up and looked at the darkened room. She looked at her lovers before grabbing her phone. It was 0300, another 6 hours before work. She looked at her contacts and pulled up Fenris's number. The 24-year-old Sue smiled at her little brother, who was currently shackled to the bed. Sure, it wasn't fun to keep him tied to the bed with chains and ropes, but it was for his own good. The people on the outside were evil, always trying to take him away from her. Her little brother currently cried as she rode him to her own satisfactory completion. The knife at his throat didn't help matters, and they climaxed at the same time. The younger man in fear and the socked-up psychopath was in bliss as her knife entered the young man's throat. The young man began to choke on his blood before he died. Sue panted as she came down from her sockswell high before she looked down and saw that her little brother was dead. Frowning at this, she rose from his rapidly cooling body. She walked over to the dresser and opened it. Inside was a notebook and several boxes of morning after pills. Grabbing a box, she ripped it open and dry swallowed a pill before cutting on the desk light and opening the book. She looked over all of the entries and looked for her next target. This was one of Sue's rare moments of clarity. Whenever she saw her brother die, she had to make sure that she had backups. As she looked through the book, she almost didn't notice the red dot on her chest. She rolled to the side as a bullet shattered the glass in her bedroom. The naked woman rolled over to where she kept her pistol and bug-out bag, pressing her back against the wall. Cocking her pistol, she moved along the wall as low and fast as she could. Which was a good thing as an axe slammed into her door and splintered the wood. "Here's Millie," yelled a red-skinned woman. "Damn it, Mom. I told you no more movie references," yelled a young man. "Sorry hon, I couldn't help myself," said the red-skinned woman with a southern sweetheart-type voice. The shining reference aside, Sue raised her pistol and opened fire on the area where the girl was. The named Millie pulled her head out of the door. Sue managed to slip on her top and some shorts and point the pistol at the door. She didn't have a chance as a pair of hands appeared behind her and grabbed her in a full Nelson. She screamed and began to thrash and try and fight her way out. Before she could do anything else, she was turned around and thrown on the bed next to the dead body. She went to raise her pistol, but it was shot out of her hand a second later. She looked out the shadows and saw 4 figures appear from them as if summoned. All with looks of the devil. "A bitch put up a better fight than I thought," said the taller devil. "What fight?" asked the tallest demon. A blonde who looked young enough to be her. Snap. Sue's eyes widened. These devils were trying to corrupt her little brother and take him from her. She wasn't going to let that happen. She couldn't let it happen. Sue jumped up. She kicked the tallest devil in the balls hard enough to make him fall to the ground. The shorter male devil raised his gun and fired a single shot, only for Sue to pull off a Matrix-like duck before shooting off and slipping behind the demon and pulling a knife from the belt and slamming it into the boy's shoulder. He yelled in pain as the smaller female yelled his name as she swung her axe, only for Sue to put the smaller male in between them, forcing her to stop. Dropping her meat shield, she rushed forward and punched the smaller female devil in the face hard enough to knock her out. Her brother rushed her and threw a punch. Oh, he wanted to play fight before they did the deed. She could do that. Bending backward, she slipped past a punch before bending back up and kicking him in his leg hard enough to nearly break the kneecap. He went down to his knees before Sue slammed a knee into his face. She felt cartilage and flesh give way. Her brother yelled in pain as blood and snot left his now broken nose. She would have to fix that later. For now, she would have to tie him up in place of her former little brother and make him love her. Yes. She would. Before she could get to tying him up, a gunshot rang out, hitting her in the back of the head. Sue slumped forward. "It should have finished the job instead of gloating about it. I mean, I would have double tapped everyone here. Once in the dome and another time in the ass," said Blitz with a smoking gun in his hand. "Must you be so vulgar, sir?" "Geez, I don't know, Mox. Must you be such a whipped baby dickpuss whose wife could cuck him if he was into that type of shit?" Millie ignored her husband and their bosses back and forward. Millie had a dark sense of humor and never took any of what Blitz said too seriously. If he ever got too far out of line, she'd put him back in his place. "You okay, Han?" asked Millie. "Yeah," said Naruto as he snapped his nose back into place. "We done here? I have things to do tonight." Location: IMP City, second circle of the Pride Ring. Place: Gym, Naruto's penthouse. Time: 1200. Naruto lay on his workout bench doing a bench press. That last case had hit him hard and it hit deep. During the last attack from Sue, part of his memory had come back. It didn't feel good, knowing that the woman he looked at as an older sister, AM, had sold him out to that old one-eyed bastard. He grits his teeth as he set the bar back in its place. Sitting up, he grabbed his towel and wiped his face. "Having fun, Rudo?" asked Abby, walking into the gym wearing a white sports bra and skin-tight black yoga shorts that made her already beautiful ass pop even more. "Yeah. Decided to get a workout in while Blitz and Mom go after that crazy skank so they can deliver on their second part of the mission to cage that bitch and deliver her to the client's doorstep," said Naruto as he got up and grabbed Abby by her ass and pulled her to him before kissing her. Abby moaned into the kiss, making her tail swish behind her as her hands found their way to Naruto's face. They kissed for a few moments before pulling back from each other, a thin rope of saliva connecting them together. "I thought Blitzo wasn't into the business of hunting people in hell. I thought it was too complicated of a mess," said Abby. Naruto shrugged. "I guess in his own way he did love her. The road to hell and all of that." Abby licked her lips with a smile. "I'm shocked you haven't bent me over and fucked me yet. What's the problem?" asked Abby. Naruto chuckled. "Nothing is wrong, Abs. I just have to control myself. I have a dinner meeting with Charlie and Stolas tonight. If I bend you over, I'd be balls deep in your ass all night," said Naruto. The horned sinner took a step back and hopped on the treadmill and began a slow jog. "Is that so? I figured that you would want to just fuck me before my workout, said Abby. Naruto shrugged. I have to get dressed. It's a semi-formal dinner, said the fox sinner. Have fun then, said Abby as she turned up the speed. Location. IMP City, second circle of the Pride Ring. Place. Mangled Maw. Time. 2000. Luna walked into the bar and quickly looked around for her target. She found her sitting at the bar with a drink in her hand. Walking over, Luna took a seat next to Dusk. Luna signaled to the bartender to hand her a beer. That's pussy shit, said Dusk as she took a hard gulp of what Luna assumed was spiced rum. Normally my choice is 120 proof vodka mixed with Monster at 20/80. 80 in favor of vodka, but I need my mind clear for this talk. Dusk snorted. By Beelzebub, you're a boring bitch, said Dusk. Luna gulped her beer down and ordered another one. You don't know me, said Luna. The two fell into silence for a few minutes. I'm surprised that you called me Luna, said Dusk. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised myself, but I can't really turn to my lovers or family about this, said Luna. Dusk drained her beer before she turned to Luna with a grin. Let me guess. When you met Fenrir, something awoke in you, telling you to mate him. I'm guessing it's also telling you other things. Things that you know not to be true and the like. Stop me if I'm wrong, said Dusk. Luna tried not to blush while Dusk laughed. Luna looked at her sister and growled. Don't screw with me. I need to learn how to control this. Teach me how to be Silverblood, growled Luna. Are you sure? Asked Dusk, all humor lost in her voice. If you take this path, I promise you that it's not an easy life. Silverblood only lives for Silverblood. The pack is all you will know, all you will have. There's even a chance that you won't return to the family you made for yourself. That shook Luna to her core. No Naruto. No Octavia. No Abby. No Millie and Moxie. No family. But Naruto and Octavia are, started Luna. Dusk shook her head. I know who they are. The entire pack knows who they are. Naruto, the strongest overlord in the Pride Ring. Made the 3Vs his personal bitches. Octavia, his first lover and child of ours. Gosha, Prince Stolas. The overseer of stars. Personally, we don't give a damn about that. Our territory is in gluttony. We don't really care too much what happens up here, said Dusk. Then why are you here? Why look for me at all? Asked Luna. It's not my place to say, Luna, said the dark-haired young hellhound. It's mine, said a voice from behind her. Luna felt a shiver run up her spine. She knew that voice. Turning around, she saw Fenris standing there. Submit, said Fenris with his eyes glowing. Luna didn't know what happened. 1 second she was in full control of all her actions, the next she felt like she was a passenger in her own body. Almost like she was drunk. Not buzzed or tipsy, but fucking wasted. You want to be Silverblood, then you will learn. Text your family and tell them that you're going on a short trip and will be back in a week, said Fenris waving his hand. Luna fell backwards into Dusk's arms. The last thing Luna thought before the warm embrace of sleep took her was, what the hell did I get myself into? Location. Kane City, capital of the Pride Ring, third circle of the Pride Ring. Place. Morningstar Manor. Time. 2000. The home where the dinner was taking place was not what Naruto had expected. For starters, it was being held at Morningstar Manor. The prince who controlled the first ring of hell and by extension the 3 circles. The game of the main manor was made up of what looked like human bones. From just the sheer size and number of bones, it would have taken several hundreds of millions to complete. It was large and sat on several acres of land. Quite beautiful lands if Naruto was honest with himself. On the surface, it was modeled after a Victorian-style 3-floor manor. Honestly, after everything Naruto experienced, he was always confused by the fact that demons and devils chose to have Victorian architecture. Considering they had access to all of the space of time. Then again, he himself had an elemental nation or Japanese modder. As Naruto arrived at the front gate, he saw Stolas, Stella, and Octavia. All 3 were dressed in their best clothes. Naruto smiled at Stella and Octavia. Before he formally bowed to the trio. Prince Stolas, Lady Stella, Heiress Octavia. Overlord Naruto, said Stolas tipping his hat, while Stella and Octavia curtsied to him. Overlord Naruto, would you do me the honor of escorting me inside? Asked Octavia with a twinkle in her eyes. Naruto smiled. I would love to, Heiress Octavia, said Naruto as he held out his arm. Octavia took Naruto's arm and they were allowed inside the manor and followed one of the most formidable looking hellhounds Naruto had ever seen. Its power rivaled that of Stolas when he wasn't holding back. They were led inside a dining room where Lucifer, Lilith, Charlie, and Vaggie were waiting. Naruto smiled at Charlie and Vaggie, who were dressed in similar styles, with Vaggie in a traditional off-shoulder Latin evening dress, whereas Charlie was dressed in a Caribbean-era dress, cut to a more form-fitting style. Finally Naruto turned his attention to the Lord and Lady of the Underworld respectively. He had never met Lucifer before, but had seen several pictures of him. Lilith was the surprise. Considered the most beautiful demoness in hell, she was also the arch-queen succubus. You had queen succubi, and you had the even rarer arch-succubi, but there was only one arch-queen succubus. She was slightly smaller than Stolas was, considering Stolas was 7 feet tall, and Lilith was about 6'4" or 5, with a body that put Stella's to shame. She had all the MILF proportions with a youthful look to them. It was hard to even see that she had birthed a few hundred succubi and Charlie. A pair of long, magenta horns that curved backward, black scarlet with yellow irises. The arrived group all bowed to the royal family of hell. Lord Lucifer. Welcome to our humble abode, said Lucifer. And please call me Lucy. My full name is such a bother at times. Octavia and Lilith lead their guests to the dining room where the appetizer was already on the places. Once everyone was seated accordingly, they began small talk, mostly about how businesses were and the like. As they ate, Naruto couldn't help but notice that Lucifer's eyes kept dancing between himself and Charlie. Lucy, I have a question. Why was I invited here? Asked Naruto. Naruto, no, please don't antagonize father, said Charlie. Hoping that one of the few people who believed in her wasn't sent to oblivion. Lucifer cut into his stack and took a bite. No, he is allowed to speak his mind. I do so get tired of yes men and women, said Lucifer, stabbing his plate. Charlie grabbed her friend's arm. Naruto, please, pleaded Charlie. No, Charlie, I have to know. I'm sure it's not normal for the Lord of Hell to invite a random overlord to his residence just to break bread, said Naruto as he took a sip of his wine. Naruto, my boy, perhaps this is not the place for this, said Stolas. Sorry Stolas, but I have to know what the deal maker has up his sleeves for me, said Naruto. Lilith smiled. Oh, he's sharp. Were I not already so in love with my Lucy, I would take you to my bed and suck your soul dry, said Lilith, since that was her favorite form of damnation. No, you're right. I don't normally just bring overlords to my home. If anything, I meet them on their territory. Letting them know how they are unsaved and bend to my will, said Lucifer. And, started Naruto, staring into the eyes of the king of hell. And the truth is that you current one of the strongest beings in hell, and I need you to help me out with some things. Things that Hellborn cannot do for me, said Lucifer. What do you mean? Asked Naruto. Lucifer smiled, a smile that Charlie had seen several times in her life. A smile that said bad things were about to happen, all in the name of his entertainment. Especially when her father was personally torturing or killing people. He was still pissed off that he lost Constantine in 2005 with his self-sacrifice moment and allowing his free revival to go to some woman. 1. The theatrical Lord of Hell pulled out an envelope from his coat and threw it like a shuriken at Naruto. Naruto caught it in his hand and opened it. As he did, Charlie and Baggy looked at the letter with the trio's eyes widening. Before anyone could say anything, Naruto jumped up and summoned his sword and slashed at Lucifer. Luna's eyes shot open before she jumped up. She looked around as her ears twitched this way and that, and her nose took in the smell of water, rock, and limestone. As her mind quickly adjusted to the adrenaline flowing. Her eyes soon adjusted to the low light levels. She was in cave, not very deep as she could still see light coming from the edge of the cave. The roof was high, but the caves themselves wasn't deep, maybe about 20 yards or so, and around 50 yards yard. The cave was warm thanks to the fire pit that was there. Luna smelled a pig roasting on the other side. So you finally up, came a voice that she didn't recognize. Luna looked up and saw a large silver hellhound looking at the fire, yet his ears were twitching. His silver hair was cut in a buzz cut style compared to her own, his fur is silver black, scars on both his arms and chest. He wore a leather cut similar to Fenris's in Dusk. Only his patch have beta on it. Be careful, said Iluna. He may not be as strong as Fenris, but he's still strong enough to beat you to a pulp if he put his mind to it. Thanks for the warning, said Luna to her inner self. Iluna smirked. Don't mention it. I need my body perfect for when Fenris breeds me. Who are you? Asked Luna, ignoring the last words of her instincts. Kraven. Right hand to the new Alpha Fenris, said the now named Kraven. So, what are you doing here? Asked Luna. Kraven picked up a bag and threw it over to Luna. Luna opened the bag and saw a vest cut in the shape of the one that she had seen the others wear. She picked it up and turned it around and saw that it was blank. She looked at Dusk, who grinned. Luna put it on and noticed that it fit her perfectly. She looked around and walked over to Dusk, who was putting together a basket. What now? Asked Luna. Follow me, said Dusk as she led her older sister out of the cave. When she exited the cave, she was momentarily blinded by the light. She noticed that the place that they were in was a forest with trees as tall as redwoods. All covered in a fine powder of snow and ice. Even the little stream had a small hole broken in the ice for a pole. The little alcove seemed to be the home of the Silverblood pack. Luna looked around and noticed that there were only about 12 or so members around. Not including Dusk, Kraven, or Fenris. A few tents could be seen here or there with the members of the pack carrying out various tasks. What's going on? asked Luna, blowing her breath into her hands to help warm them. We're wintering at the moment. It's a year of ice and snow here in the Gluttony Ring. Normally the weather is nice and warm for farming and the like, but because we share duties of feeding hell with Wrath. We have major years and they have major years. It will be a major year for Wrath. They will have to up food production by about 200%. I was under the impression that the pack was bigger, said Luna. It is, but during winter season we break up and scatter to the corners of Gluttony. It's to preserve our way of life and resources and not fight over food, said Dusk as she pushed past a grouping of trees. The thunking of chopping could be heard as they approached. They came to a small bundle of trees where Fenris was cutting down a smaller tree. His vest was off to the side. He buried the axe one last time in the wood before he took his hands and gave a mighty shove of the tree. The tree snapped from the last little bit, holding it together before falling. Fenris grabbed a pair of hooks and stabbed them into the base of the tree before hooking to large ropes in it. He stopped what he was doing as a small wind kicked up. He turned and smiled at the sisters. He walked over to a small fire that he had started and took a seat on a log. Luna and Dusk walked up to him, with Luna taking a seat on an opposite log while Luna sat down. So it was a bit of a shock to Luna when Dusk walked up to Fenris and kissed him tenderly. Almost like they were in love. Sorry about that, sis, said Dusk, taking Luna out of her musings. Are you two mated? Asked Luna with wide eyes. 3 years the coming spring, said Dusk with a girlish twinkle in her eyes. Dusk is the love of my life. I can't imagine life without her now, said Fenris. I guess he's not going to bone us, said Luna. Luna ignored her inner instincts for her next question. So why all the secrecy? I mean, you're an alpha. You can do what you want, said Luna. There's a hierarchy with the 5 alphas at the top, but they have their own internal hierarchy. Truth is that the current leader of the pack has his eyes on Dusk. He's had his eyes on her for a long time, growled Fenris. Dusk touched his face. Peace, my mate, said Dusk. Fenris took a breath before calming down. When the first snowfall happened, he tried to take her with him. Privileges of being an alpha: you get first rights on mating. One of the few rules we follow is that unblooded are not to be touched. I was still a beta when Dusk was doing her blooding rites. I was her teacher. We trained together, confided in each other, and before we knew it we mated, said Fenris. The leader has already given strict orders that I not be touched during the winter. Well, we may have broken the pack up for the winter. I don't put it past him to have a spy or two in our group, said Dusk. The males of our pack call him the bitch hoarder. Aside from our female alpha, no female in the pack is safe from him claws. He has no desires other than sating his lust. He already has 4 mates. Can you have more than 1 mate? Asked Luna before clamping her mouth shut quickly. Dusk looked at her sister before shaking her head. Your instincts overcame your rational side, I'm guessing. That's pretty normal. I'd be less impressed if you managed to somehow fall prey to them, said Dusk. So I'm not crazy? Asked Luna. Fenris nodded to Luna. Nope, you're as sane as everyone in hell. So insane? Asked a grinning Luna. Dusk laughed at the obvious joke. Good one, sis. Fenris slapped his snout. You two are defiantly sisters. As far as your instincts. That tends to happen when you manage to have your deeper pack instincts opened up. Sorry to say you're not my type, said Fenris. So, what was that thing that you did to me at the bar? Hypnotic howl. Only alphas and alpha affiliates can learn it. It's I guess power that only those recognized as alphas have. When I displayed the ability to use it during a battle with a rival pack, I was assigned to the position of alpha. I promise you that the leader wasn't pleased, said Fenris with a smile. Luna for her part was shocked at how easygoing and laid back Fenris was. He wasn't so creepy bastard. He was just a kind and awkward guy who had a lot of responsibility thrust on him without any warning or notice. He was a pretty cool guy. Like her beloved Naruto was. I'm going to head back to camp. No need to give everyone ideas, said Dusk as she kissed Fenris one last time before leaving. So, what's my first lesson? Asked Luna. Fenris smiled before his face turned serious. First, I want to make this transparently clear. Silverblood is a pack, not a family. You have a family, friends, and a lover. Regardless of if you get the rights or blood. Blood is blood, but family is connection. We have family-like units in our pack, but it's a painful existence. If you wish to leave and never return, then I have no problem with that, said Fenris. Luna looked at Fenris for a moment. I didn't jump through hoops and come all the way here on a maybe. I'm going all in. So get to teaching, said Luna. Fenris smiled. I like your attitude, little sister. Control. That is the very foundation of what it means to be a Silverblood, but more importantly a member of a Hellhound pack. The next week was all physical and physiological lessons. Learning that her inner self was her, just needing an outlet because she had been locked up for years at that point. Luna learned to fight with her claws, not just randomly lash out. In fact, people would say that she was easily a prodigy with her skills, but in truth, that was all Blitzo's parenting influence. Luna walked into the cave, bloody from a hunting trip with Kraven and 2 other Omegas. Over the last week, she looked around at his crew and noticed that a lot of them were on edge. "What's going on, Fenris?" asked Luna. Fenris winced. "Sorry Luna, I got some bad news for you," said Fenris as he slid his phone across the table. This was scaring the crap out of Luna. Thanks to her training, she was only allowed to send a text or call 2 to 3 times a day while here. Sure, she would be leaving in another day, but that made it strange why Fenris was acting strange. Picking up the phone, Luna read the article. She blinked once, twice. "What?" howled Luna as her red eyes narrowed in complete rage before she bolted to the door. Dusk jumped in front of Luna and began to shake her. Luna snapped out of, started Dusk only to catch a punch to the jaw. "Kill them all. They hurt our mate," yelled Luna as the rage seeped into her deepest instants. Dusk was fast enough to jump on Luna as they crashed through the door and began to claw and bite at each other. Dusk kicked Luna off of her. Luna rolled until she got to all fours. Her hackles were raised. Dusk was on all fours as well as they charged at each other. The others began to cheer and take bets on who was going to win. Kraven picked up his alpha's phone and handed it back to him. "Was that wise, boss?" asked Kraven. "Wise or not, she needed to know. Better she finds out here where we can keep her from doing something stupid," said Fenris as he looked at the article. The theatrical Lord of Hell pulled out an envelope from his coat and threw it like a shuriken at Naruto. Naruto caught it in his hand and opened it. As he did, Charlie and Baggy looked at the letter with the trio's eyes widening. "You are courageously invited to the unholy matrimony of Charlie Mange and Uzumaki Naruto. This union is between the heiress of the throne of hell and the strongest overlord in 1,000 years. Before anyone could say anything, Naruto jumped up and summoned his sword and slashed at Lucifer. Lucifer raised his hand holding his dinner knife, blocking it with no more strength than it would take to take the life of a baby puppy. "May that's quite a swing, son. You almost made my hand go numb," said Lucifer as if he was a proud papa. This only pissed Naruto off before twisting and pulling out his gun and releasing a hail of point-blank bullets. The bullets all stopped as they hit a barrier just floating there. Naruto emptied the gun before Lucifer vanished in such a way it made it seem like he distorted time and space around him. He appeared before Naruto and thrust his knife at Naruto. Naruto felt the full force of the attack as was sent flying through several walls and out into the backyard, only to be caught by his hair. "Now I'm really impressed. That would have killed lesser demons, even if you managed to avoid the brunt of the attack." Naruto kicked his feet up and wrapped his legs around Lucifer's neck before twisting and snapping the Lord of Hell's neck. Releasing Lucifer's neck, Naruto opened his mouth and gathered energy in it before firing it at Lucifer and sending him back a few steps. When the attack died down, Naruto was stunned. He was unhurt. Not even his suit was damaged. Lucifer smirked, opened his mouth and unleashed a blast that was stronger than Naruto's. Naruto brought his sword up and tried to stop the attack. The inverse of Naruto's attack barely moving the Lord of Hell, Lucifer's attack sent Naruto back several hundred feet before breaking his guard and dealing massive damage to Naruto. Naruto hit the ground rolling before slamming his sword into the ground. Naruto looked up. His suit was damaged and he was bleeding from several wounds. Rising to his feet, he put his sword up prepared to attack. He went for a rush but stopped as he felt a knife at his throat. Naruto felt a cold bead of sweat roll down the side of his face. He couldn't beat this man. Naruto was a monster. Naruto was powerful. Naruto had put several sinner and natural-born demons in their place. But here was Lucifer. Lucifer was a monster. Lucifer is powerful. Lucifer put Naruto and Overlord-class inner demon in his place. "Another 1,000 years and you might be a challenge," chuckled the Prince of Darkness. "Naruto," yelled Octavia. "Oh, don't make a fuss, dear, he's fine. Lucy is just playing," said Lilith, drinking her wine and smiling at her husband and future son-in-law. "My lord, that is enough," yelled Stolas. "Dad, stop," yelled Charlie. Lucifer smiled before removing the knife. Not just any knife either, as dull as a baseball bat, but a knife. Naruto fell to his knees before Octavia and Luna ran up to Naruto to help him up. Veggie looked at Lucifer with a glare. "Depones adamantera Charlie o algo bastardo," yelled Veggie. Lucifer sighed. "No, why por amor a la cana hablar ingles. CK tuve mucho que ver con Karen y Ken, pero no soy fanático de hablar español. Honestamente, te sorprenderías de los pecados de los que son capaces los harapans," said Lucifer, making Veggie's eyes widen. "You speak Spanish?" asked Veggie. "I speak dialects that are lost to time. Spanish is just another language. If anything, while English is becoming something of a worldwide thing, it becomes a bit annoying. Do you know how many Karens demanded they speak to my manager when they met me? I'm almost tempted to send them to heaven just to annoy angels," said Lucifer. Charlie looked at her dad. Can we please talk about what happened like rational adults? Asked Charlie. Lucifer looked at Cheryl and Naruto very well. I don't care if you two have harems, fuck each other's brains out, or have massive fucking orgies. No, what I care about is that when hell's major political events happen, you two shows up and present a happy united front. I also expect Charlie to have at least 3 children from you specifically in the next 300 years. I'll count twins and triplets, said Lucifer. Everyone except for Lilith's jaw dropped hearing this. I promise you that we are only doing what is best for you in all of hell, said Lilith. I'm marrying someone I don't love. No offense Naruto, you're more like a doting big brother to me at this point, said Charlie as her hands hovered above Naruto's worst wounds. None taken. You're not my type either, Charlie. More like a cool little sister, groaned Naruto. I don't really care. Hell, the way you two are talking makes me think you are both into incest. You'll both do as told. Well, I won't kill my own child, everyone else is fair game, said Lucifer huffing slightly. Now see here my lord, I can tolerate some foolishness, but, started Stolas. 3 imps taking portals to Earth, said Lucifer making Stolas stop. I could care less about the rules that are broken so long as they are not so blatant and don't cause me trouble with the old man in the attic, but you'll do well to remember that you are a subject under my rule, and I'm letting a lot of rules slide. Stolas, said Stella in worry for her husband. Well, he didn't show it often. Stolas was powerful. Among the Ares Gosha demons, he was easily one of the strongest outside of his father and Asmodeus. But as strong as he was, he knew that he was nothing to the king of hell. Stolas balled up his fist and bowed. Understood my lord, said Stolas with a glare that could make lesser demons quiver in fear. Wonderful. We should all retire for the evening. Charlie, Naruto, I expect to hear the sounds of very raunchy socks, as you'll both be next to mine in Lilith's room. Vegeta and Octavia are barred from entering the room that Naruto and Charlie will be sharing for the evening. In fact, Octavia dear, Baggy dear, why don't you both take the guest room across the hall? Of course, it's been years since I updated the soundproofing in that room, and any sort of spell detected that close to mine and my wife's quarters would be considered an attack on my person. Am I understood? Said Lucifer with a toothy grin that showed what would happen to anyone who disobeyed him on this matter. Everyone nodded. Stolas, Stella, and Octavia in fear. Charlie in reluctant obedience to her father, and Naruto and Baggy in frustration. Lilith smirked. She saw what her husband was up to and couldn't be more proud of the fallen angel. Then again, she was the mistress of lust. Grabbing the hand of her child, Lilith led her away to prepare her for the evening. Including some of the most powerful succubus nectar. While Charlie may have inherited much from both her parents, including little succubus charm, she didn't get a resistance to things of a sexual nature. One of the many reasons that Charlie often used to wind up in the beds of males and females of the noble demons is that had less than pure motives when it came to her baby girl. All in all, this was for the best. Charlie would understand when she was a parent. The next 3 hours or so were brutal for the Fox Overlord. Serviced wine and men by the many scantily clad maids that worked under Lilith and Lucifer. It was no secret that they had hundreds of maids and butlers in their manor that were there exclusively to sate their lust and desires. They did not have harems or concubines. That implied some sense of responsibility and love. No, the king of hell and his queen only had eyes for each other. Everyone else aside from Charlie to an extent was merely a playthings to them. Finally, Lucifer led Naruto to the room that he was to share for the night with his child. Naruto was already feeling the results of the wine. Despite his body being able to filter harmful poisons and toxins, the wine was not so. It was designed to trick his system into accepting it. In fact, he had been looking at Octavia, Baggy, and even Stella in ways that would have made even Asmodeus blush in jealousy. Don't you feel bad? Asked Naruto. Lucifer looked at Naruto with a glint in his eyes. Always. I'm the Prince of Darkness. Outside of Cain himself, I'm the strongest being in hell, said Lucifer. Naruto frowned and had to fight off the desire to manhandle a maid with 3 large breasts. You know what I mean. Forcing Charlie and me to couple. She and I are friends. Hell, I doubt she even has any desire to be with me. On that we agree. She is your friend and that is all she desires from you, but you too unique and pure to let go of, said Lucifer. Naruto stopped walking. What do you mean? Asked Naruto. You my boy were never supposed to come to hell. In fact, it was a fluke that you ended up here in the first place. No matter what your sins, the fact that you were the keeper of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, a being of pure chakra and hate, and you didn't go mad immediately as an infant with that weak-ass Reaper death seal is a miracle in and of itself. No. You were heaven-bound from the hours the Kyuubi was sealed inside of you. Then how did I end up in hell? Asked Naruto shaking, in both anger and lust. The contract between hell and people who wanted to use the Kyuubi and you. They gave me you, your soul, and Kyuubi in exchange for enough power to conquer the elemental nations. The leaders behind this were named Shima Danzo, Haruno Mabuki and Kazuki, said Lucifer. Why tell me this? Asked Naruto in barely contained rage. I have no reason not to tell you, my soon-to-be son-in-law. As of 24 hours ago, Danzo Shima arrived here in hell from Mabuki, stabbing him in the back in the council chambers of Konoha during Kazuki's inauguration as the 6th Hokage, said Lucifer before he touched Naruto's head. Naruto looked at Lucifer. What did you just do? Growled Naruto. I blocked your memory. With me telling you what happened, your death amnesia was unlocked. By no means did I do this for you. Oh no, I did it because I want your mind focused on you and Charlie fucking each other in such ways that it would be considered a crime. Until you leave my manor or your memory will be locked. Before Naruto could say anything else, the door to a room opened and Lilith walked out with 4 naked succubi. Daughters that she birthed years ago outside of her marriage with Lucy. Then again, he had no less than 1,000 half-breed bastards running around hell, more like 669. They like to fight and kill each other off in turf wars for their father's approval. She's ready, said Lilith, licking her fingers. It's going to be an interesting night. Place: Morningstar Manor, Charlie's room. Time: 11:59. The walls of the room were a deep maroon, rosewood and lily of the valley, candles burned all around the room, the California king bed a circle in the center of the room, and laying in the center of that bed was Charlie, naked except red thigh-high, high-heeled boots and a massive dildo that was set to the lowest level. Enough to keep her where she was, but not enough for release, drooling from both sets of mouths, gagged and blind, foiled so only sound, and in her true form, massive black wings lay limp, having been toyed with by her sisters, her breasts and skin marked in bites, her lower lips a flood of love juices leaking, but the relief was not forthcoming. Her mother and sisters had edged her several times and left her hanging, her body burned with lust, the drool of her mother having such a powerful effect on her from her kisses and gropes. It didn't help that in those 3 hours, Cheryl's mind had been destroyed several times to the point where her release was the only thing on her mind. The door opened and Charlie felt someone enter the barrier that her mother had placed. Charlie knew this because her mother had determined that it would be best to have a barrier that wouldn't waver unless she or her father opened the door, or the occupants inside had stayed inside for 48 hours. She heard the door shut before she felt the dildo removed from her, making her moan at its loss. Next, the gag was removed, and before her blindfold was removed, she stared at Naruto. Her friend was speaking to her, telling her things, but she couldn't think. Her mind was cloudy. Naruto looked handsome and right now the only person who could do something about her maddening lust. Baggy Octavia, Luna, forgive me, thought Charlie as Naruto released her bonds. With the speed of a striking rattlesnake, she grabbed Naruto and kissed him, forcing her long scale-like tongue into his mouth. Naruto didn't fight it. In fact, his own maddening lust was amplified by her own. How's, whys, and reason vanished as Charlie ripped his clothes off. Naruto pushed her onto the bed before he sheathed himself inside of her. Both moaned as both came from a combination of the hours they had spent on edge and drugs in their system. Their moans and grunts were loud and strong throughout the manor for the next day. Charlie groaned as she awoke from her sleep. A pleasant soreness between her legs, the bite marks on her breasts and neck. The taste of semen on her tongue. The feeling of dry cum on her skin. She also felt full from the number of times Naruto had cum inside of her. Were it not for the fact that it was difficult for fallen angels to get pregnant, then she was sure that she would be pregnant right now. Then again, she was part succubus from her mother, did that mean that she could get pregnant easily? No, if that was the case, she would have gotten pregnant with the number of times she had sex with Leviathan. Damn, she had forgotten how much she liked dick until last night. Taking it up the ass was a new experience, but not unpleasant. As were the gangbang. Who knew Naruto could make clones of himself for such kinky socks? Did that make her a slut for liking socks with Naruto? Oh, she wondered if Baggy would be up for a threesome turned gangbang. I mean, it was technically against her and Naruto's will. But she still slept with a man she considered a friend in college and not a lover. Not to mention, what would Baggy think? Or Luna? Oh crumbs, Luna was going to kill her. Okay, maybe it would be a good idea to hide in the hotel for a few weeks or years. Charlie, I can hear your thoughts from here, groaned Naruto in his sleep. Sorry, didn't mean to wake you, whispered the Princess of Hell. You didn't. I've been up for about an hour. Baggy has tried killing your dad twice with her spear. He's taking it all in good fun and even suggested that she come in and give me morning head. As much as I like Baggy, I know she's a hardcore lesbian and would probably bite it off, said Naruto. Charlie sighed. I know that Baggy can be a bit difficult, but her past makes it hard for her to trust men. The things that happened to her when she was just a human were the only reason she even ended up in hell, is that she killed her pimp. I'm not judging her. And her life is hers, said Naruto. Both got up from the bed. Neither had any real embarrassment being naked in front of the other. They had just spent the past 48 hours having pretty hardcore sex. They showered separately. Despite not having any real desire to be together, the temptation of the flesh was still there. Once they finished and dressed, they opened the door and stopped. Lucifer was on the ground laughing as he held Vaggy's spear with one hand and was holding off Octavia's magic attacks with the other. Stolas, Stella and Lilith were sitting on a couch watching and drinking some tea. "Mom, what is going on?" asked Charlie. "Hello dear. Well, you weren't the only one who had some rather raunchy socks over the last 2 days. By midnight of the first day, Vaggy and Octavia got so randy from your sounds that they ended up masturbating with each other before just outright having socks. Lucy walked in on them this morning and well, the rest is history," smirked Lilith. Naruto and Charlie smacked their heads. Lucifer was many things, but he wasn't into the people his kid was. In fact, he was a massive fucking troll when it came to people's relationships. He had helped instigate several wars because he was bored and wanted to spread chaos in the world. He even had a hand in the creation of Karenites. A sin in and of itself. The duo quickly retrieved their respective girlfriends and quickly calmed them down. "That was pretty entertaining. Shall we retire to the dining room for breakfast?" said Lucifer, raising to his feet. Everyone followed the Lord of Hell to the dining room where they had breakfast. Plans began for the wedding of Hell. Location: IMP City, Pride Ring, 3rd Circle. Place: Highway. Time: early morning. Luna was currently very pissed off. When she returned to Blitz's apartment, she grabbed her adopted father by his neck and held him at eye level and asked where Naruto was. Although she wasn't the only one currently upset, Abby and Millie were both pissed off for vastly different reasons. Abby because her boyfriend was basically kidnapped by Satan, while Millie because she knew that Charlie, the child of Satan himself, was trouble for her boy. Of course, Moxie and Blitz were smart enough to stay the fuck out of the way of the 3 angry women. At least they were angry until Stolas called Blitz and told him that they would be coming to the office. The girls insisted that Blitz take them to the office right that instant. The group consisting of the M's, Blitz, Luna, and Abby were. Blitz was banging his head to some rock music. As they swung into the parking lot, a pink car was in one of the 5 parking spots that Imp rented. "Oh, what the fuck? Who parked their pink pussy wagon in my spot?" yelled Blitz. "Dad, it's fine. We have 4 other spots. And Naruto pays for them all," said Luna. "Fuck that noise. That's my spot," yelled Blitz as he jumped out of his van and walked over to the person who was in the car. The owner of the car got out and stood there. "If you were a sinner demon and met this woman, you would realize just how fucked you were, both figuratively and literally, if she had her way. She was a succubus. Not just any succubus either. The size of her wings signified her as an arch-succubi. A leader among her people. She was tall, almost 6'1", and hergless figure with large E-cup breasts, a large round ass that could make anyone jealous of the chair she sits in, and thick thighs, hot pink skin, and a barbed tail with a black tip. She has 2 black-tipped horns with a black star on each side, and her left horn is slightly taller than the other. Her eyes are hot pink with a yellow sclera, and she has a black heart under her right eye. She has long ombre white hair with pink undertones, from lighter to darker towards the tips, and a darker pink streak down the length and across the bangs. She also has a red heart-shaped tattoo on her right upper arm, which has Blitzo's name written within it, that has been crossed out with a big black X. Her accessorized pink fur coat, under which she wears a tightly fitted white and black mini dress that barely came to the edge of her ass, and if she moved just right, you could see that she wasn't wearing anything under it. The dress features a prominent contrasting X and O pattern on the chest, as well as a star design on the abdomen. Black thigh highs with black high heels that have a heart motif and 3 X-shaped cutouts down the sides. She has a pair of round shades with pink heart designs in the lenses. "Oh fuck me sideways," said Blitz when he realized who he was dealing with. "I would, but that ship sailed a long time ago, Blitzo," said the succubi looking through her shades at Blitz. "First it's Blitz, the O is silent. And second, I haven't seen you in 7 years, Verosika. Plus isn't the nearest ocean is 3 rings down." Luna, Millie, Moxie looked at Blitz while Abby looked at them all in confusion. "Who is Verosika?" asked Abby. All 3 turned to her. "How do you not know who Verosika?" asked Luna. Abby raised her eyebrow as she took a cigarette and took a puff. "I've only been in hell about 4 months on, plus I was never into music aside from using it to teach my students their ABCs. I have no idea who this woman is." "That's Verosika Mayday. She's one of hell's best singers," said Moxie. They turned back just in time to see a large hellhound growling at Blitz. Luna sighed before she jumped out of the truck and got between Blitz and the large hellhound and growled back at him. The larger male looked at her and tried to impose his dominance over her. Luna wanted to laugh. His pitiful aura was nothing compared to Fenris's. Luna focused what she learned into her next growl, making the larger male take a step back. "Ha! Take that, skank. My loony is better than your muscle-bound mutt," gloated Blitz. "What the hell, Tex? You're the head of my security. The large male held up his hands. If you and your ex want to trade bars, be my guest. I won't get involved unless he attacks you, said Tex. I don't get paid enough to take on a pseudo-alpha, thought the muscle-bound hellhound. Attack me? Blitz is a lot of things, but he won't attack someone he has a connection with. No, our problems stem from the fact that we were a thing once. Blitz rolled his eyes. Here we go. Stole your car, took it on a joyride, abandoned me you to pay for a hotel bill, while maxing out your credit card on horse riding lessons in wrath, said Verasica. Verasica looked at Blitz, not in anger but in disappointment, as her hand went to her arm, where her tattoo of Blitz's name was. Loona noticed this but didn't want to comment on it. Like the others, she knew next to nothing about Blitz's past. All she knew was that he was. Listen, I have things to do and I don't have all day for this. Come find me later, Blitz, you and I need to talk. No insults, just talk, said Verasica. Blitz was a bit shocked by this, but then again since he had met that kid Naruto a lot of things had changed. Fine. I'll meet you later, said Blitz. Verasica walked away with Tex behind her as he turned to look at the stunned faces of the others. You know Verasica? You dated Veraskia. Her and you. Sir, it makes no sense. Blitz smacked his face. It was going to be a long day. Before Blitz could open his mouth, Naruto pulled up on his Akira-style bike and looked at everyone. What did I miss? Asked Naruto. Loona and Abby grabbed their boyfriend and dragged him into the van before slamming the door after kicking out Millie and Moxie. The van began to bounce as screams of pleasure and rather clever uses of certain hellhounds' rather long tongues could be heard from inside the van. Millie forgot to roll up the windows. The M&M duo looked at each other. Do you think the office meeting room is empty? Asked Millie. Moxie grinned, picked up his wife and ran into the building for their own workplace socks escapades. Verasica Mayday walked into the studio building that she would be in for the next 2 months. She had been contracted by a local overlord to work on a few love songs. Apparently, he had 3 girlfriends that he really loved and wanted them to know it. Boyfriends, girlfriends, spouses. It was all a crap shot to her. She was a demon of lust after all. Her earthly cousins, the Vila, were the beings of love. Sure, they were lusted after, but that was those who indulged in their more nihilistic side by unleashing their mating aura. Then again, those who couldn't control their aura ended up as sock slaves. Something warrior queens found out the hard way. In her mind, that was what they got for thinking they could love anyone, especially a human. Her hand went to her tattoo that had Blitzo's name on it. It wasn't that Succubi couldn't fall in love. It was just hard to fall in love with them since lust was the opposite of love. Such a thing in hell could get you killed. If a demon of lust fell in love, they fell hard. They would neglect Soxwell energy feeding and instead starve themselves just to please the single person they devoted themselves to. She couldn't lie and say that Blitzo was the same way. He seemed to really care about her, but then the lying, the obsession with Fizz, the doubts, his sister, dad, and mom. All of it came down hard on him and she felt for him. She didn't care about the destroyed car, she didn't care about the credit card. Hell, she had cash and she would have paid for the riding lessons. No, what had broken her heart was that Blitz didn't try and talk to her about what had happened. Instead, he just left. The other members of her den were already off doing their own thing in the studio. Josh and Ace were basically fucking in the booth, Coco was going down on Apple. Kat was checking the equipment like the mix master he was, and Kiki was reading the demonic version of the Karma Sutra. Verasica shook her head. Love is for suckers, said Verasica. You alright, V? Asked a short stack named Milky. Verasica sometimes forgot how stealthy her second was at times. Honestly, if she had a best friend in the world, it would be Milky. Sure, they had socks, hell, they were Succubi, they fucked around like nymphos, but that was them. Despite being the only member of the crew who wasn't a full-blood Succubi, she was more reliable than a whole den. Milky was a half succubus half imp that was THICC. Not Millie thick, but THICC. She stood maybe at 4'8" with a rack that rivaled her own at E-cup and a big all-ghetto booty. Her skin was imp red, but her eyes were Succubi yellow. A spade tail and wings, wearing blue jean cut-off short shorts with her thong peeking out at her hips, knee-high boots, and a black shirt that had one long sleeve. I'm fine, Milky, just wasn't prepared to see my ex is all, said Verasica. Milky crawled between Verasica's legs and kissed her thighs before making her way to her soaking wet lips. Unlike the others, Verasica didn't really wear underwear. Too much time when she wanted to get to the good thing, but before Milky touched her, she stopped and crawled into her lap. You know it's not a good thing to run from these things, right? Asked Milky. Verasica rolled her eyes. By Kane, you sound like my therapist. The only thing I need you to do is be a good little slut and eat my cunt out, growled Verasica. The short stack shook her head before kissing her boss on the cheek. Not happening, V. Not when our employer is supposed to meet with her. Don't need him to see you getting eaten out. Please. He'd probably double the pay just for a chance to join in. He's an overlord. They practically live for their sins, said Verosika. I wouldn't mind a piece of that action, said a grinning Ace. Fuck you homo, said Verosika. We did. Had a fucking orgy and covered your slut ass in our coom last night, said Ace as he got in Verosika's face. It was tense for a few seconds before they burst out laughing. Normally these types of jokes wouldn't fly if anyone outside of their clique said them, but it was all love when they talked. Verosika loved her crew. They had been with her for years. Sure, Tex was new, but he was treated like a member of their little family. Although that could be cause he lived with Verosika. She had adopted him 2 years ago since she was and still is a recovering addict of Beelzebub juice. Tex wasn't about that life. He had no problem bitch slapping her if she got too out of it. The laughter died down as a knock sounded on the door. Tex opened the door and in walked a fox. No. An overlord. A handsome one at that. She could smell it all over him. He just had socks. And from what she could tell he blew his load at least 10 times and he still had plenty of ammo left over. At least more handsome than Valentino is. Behind him was an imp dressed rather smartly with lipstick on his cheek. Rising to her feet she walked over to him. Hey there handsome. I'm Verosika. Friends call me V, you can call me whatever you like, said Verosika as she used her eyes and activated her charm. The fox looked at her before his hand shot out and grabbed her by her throat and lifted her off the ground. Well, it wasn't tight enough to choke off her air supply, it was enough force to leave a bruise. This wasn't an attack, this was a warning. The others looked to his shock as Tex growled and was about to jump at the fox before said blonde glanced behind him, making Tex still. Normally I'd snap your pretty little neck for that stunt you just pulled, but for the sake of business, I'll tell you once, don't try to charm me. People fucking with my mind carries a death penalty, said the fox. Verosika nodded as the overlord set her down gently. Verosika rubbed her neck slightly. You really know how to choke a bitch. I wonder if you can do it with a cockmeat sandwich. What the fuck is a cockmeat sandwich? Asked the blonde. It's where you take peanut butter and jelly, I prefer strawberry, smear it on your bunghole, and get your bunghole licked before the person gives you upside down head. I used to enjoy doing that to my ex-boyfriend Chad, said Moxie. TMI, Dad TMI, said the fox. So mind telling me your name handsome as well as your daddy's, said Verosika. Right. I'm Naruto and this is my father Moxie. It's a pleasure to meet another music lover Miss Mayday, said Moxie. Your mom must have been pretty desperate to have socks with limp to cure Josh. Naruto looked at him before he threw a right cross smashing Josh's nose in. Kiki shook her head in embarrassment. Right, I'm Verosika and these are my denmates. Milky, Apple, Coco, Kiki, Josh the guy you punched, Ace, Cat, and the guy at the door is Vortex or Tex for short, said Verosika. Naruto nodded and was about to speak again before the door was kicked open by Blitz. Naruto, pack your bags, we're going to Key West for a week, yelled Blitzo. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Why is that? Asked Naruto. Ipshidhir thought that it was a good idea to do a spring break kill list half off, said Abby. So a week of fun in the sun. Count me and my posse in, said Verosika. Naruto groaned. Let me call Octavia and at least get a travel bag ready. Stoll has already booked the hotel, said Blitz with a smirk. Beach party, yelled Verosika, Luna, Millie, and Abby. Thanks for watching.